All right. There we go. Hello, everybody. Hello, fellas.
What's up?
Hey, JP.
I'm
Hey,
good.
Jaime.
We are here. We are here on the Healing Conversations channel. I am certainly not Carrie Fisher Pascual, and this is not Carly Marie Dudley. That's not her. And I don't know who this guy is.
And
But we'll get
I'm
to
for
him.
sure not the ocean that's in the background.
But we're here. This is obviously we've hijacked the Healing Conversations platform. This is a men's hangout, so we're going to talk about men's stuff. So don't be afraid if you hear a sports analogy or video game reference or I don't know. But I'm joined here with Mr. Sam Dudley. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well.
Mr. Jaime. Lara. Hi, guy. Jaime, he is so nice enough to close down Panera for us and join us there from Panera.
The love sofa.
That's a lovely place you have.
Yeah, thank you. I designed it myself.
We have already been online talking for an hour, probably about a lot of stuff that we should have recorded because it was very deep and honest and awesome. We also talked about friend stuff, but it's good to be hanging out here with two of my friends, and the thing that brought us together is our fatherhood roles. Sam, father to Christian, and Jaime, father to London. If you want to find out more information about things that we're connected with, we'll put it in the description of the video, but I don't want to take a whole lot of time going into, all of our follows and likes and projects and stuff. We are who we are, and we're here to talk about being guys and dads. Guys and dads. It's like a Broadway musical. Guys and dads.
Guys and dads.
So
Might break out into song.
I know.
Are we going to sing Let It Go? No, please not.
No. It's not that kind of hangout.
Okay.
I will reference that we have two other men hangouts that we did with the Still Project last year. One was a general men's hangout, and one was a Father's Day hangout. Oh, and I should say that this is Father's Day week. Father's Day is coming up on Sunday here in America. When's Father's Day in Australia, Sam?
I have no idea.
Well, you can celebrate with us on Sunday.
Yeah, I will. Hey,
Saturday.
but the important thing is, I know when Mother's Day is. So
True.
that's the important thing. I don't have to worry about Father's Day.
No,
Oh, Sam always has the perfect answer.
it's true.
He's the perfect guy. So we're here to talk about men's stuff. This is Healing Conversations, a platform that our wives started, Mrs. Marie Dudley and Mrs. Fisher Pascual, them and their double names. They started this platform to talk about the issues surrounding the experience of having a baby die in your family, whether through miscarriage, stillbirth, infant death, SIDS, and the many things that are also included thereunder. But tonight we're going to talk about the father's perspective, the men's perspective, and a lot more of the intense and intimate subjects that men might not normally talk about. So all of you viewing out there, hopefully maybe you're a guy, maybe you're watching in your man cave by yourself, maybe you're a couple and you're watching together, and we may not necessarily have your specific story covered, but hopefully what I know Sam and Jaime want to do is reach out, and if there's something that resonates with you from our stories and you connect with us, then we're just elated that we could step in and try to bring a small light to the issue that we've all experienced, and that has changed our lives for forever. So Jaime and Sam, we know the issue. All three of us have lost children. We've all been in that delivery room situation. We've all gotten the really hard news. Before all that happened, Jaime, I'll go to you first. Who were you? Who would you tell before you were dad to London? Tell me who you were what kind of guy you were? What was your identity?
I was a guy very much who kind of very happy-go-lucky, very at ease with everything. Didn't really have a lot of worries or I guess I was naive to the fact that things go wrong in the world. Like you kind of hear about it, but I think before I experienced our son passing, I hadn't even lost a grandparent yet. So losing somebody or someone that wasn't like a family pet or something had just not been on my radar.
Yeah.
So what we went through was just a total eye opener as far as who I was and how I viewed life and how I thought about just life in general and how to fight for certain things and feel different emotions that I've always been a kind of emotional person, but at the same time I've been emotional kind of, I guess you could say, like calm and emotional, like crying during sad parts of movies and stuff like that, but never like, I guess, understanding somebody's pain as far as them losing somebody, because I just never had. So that was very much something that was not on my radar, before we had him. So just very much, I would just say naive to a lot of things as far as, or blinded by, the other side of life being death, because of it just wasn't family or blood or anything like that at all.
Yeah.
So probably that. I think my wife dealt with that a little bit more because she lost her father at 20 to 21 years old. So she was a little bit more into it, but me, I was just kind of like careless and just went about my business and kind of just went through the motions as far as being a husband and trying to discover what that was, because we were pretty young and married. So
good answer. Not like I would say bad answer. But, Sam, who were you before Christian?
Before Christian, I was. It's fair to say I was a bit of a imbalanced individual, and had been, ever since I was a child, leading up to, because before Christian, Christian was born when I was turning 25, just before I turned 25. Scarlett, our oldest child, was already on the scene, so I had the experience to grow from being a father in the year previous, because as we all know, it changes everything. But when I think about who I was before Christian was born and passing away, I think about a pretty confused boy / young man who still had and still does have a lot of growing up to do. A lot more back then, though. I have, like what Jaime was saying about, being like an emotional individual. I have that side of me, that sensitive side. I always have, ever since I was a child. But I kind of, through maybe peer pressure a bit during high school and coming out of high school, I did turn into that person who was a bit naive and was, living very much more a social life and looking forward to getting drunk on weekends and partying and that sort of thing. And it's only occurred to me now that the reason why I was suffering with so much depression back then was because this side of me isn't really part of who I am. That party side, that possibly hanging out with some of the wrong types, even though I still have a lot of friends from back in those days who I still hold close to me. Just the sort of things I was surrounding myself with aren't really me at all. And it's taken me a few years now since becoming a father, and also with Christian passing away, that 7 years on, every year by year, I'm just growing and growing so much more and realizing who I am now. And yeah, so I was definitely a lot different to who I am today. But I still have a lot of growing to do. But you know, I owe a lot to Christian because he has changed my life. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that goes for all three of us, likely. And I'll pick up that question with saying, you know, who I was before and after. I'll transition into the after question for you guys. And for me, I know I've always been a creative person. I've always had my certain skill sets and talents, but I had a lot of boundaries. I had a lot of restrictions on myself. There was a lot of fear in my life. And going through this experience, and we were talking earlier about that roller coaster moment of when you're in the delivery room or you get that bad diagnosis, and it's so far out of your control, it's a free fall, that, and I've said this in videos before, but it really, really set me free having to deal with Elena dying, because it wasn't going to get worse than that. You know, and who's to say what the rest of my life holds with my personal health or my family health, but I don't think it will get, I don't think it can get much worse than that losing your baby like that. It does, that's just, to me, the end-all, be-all of crisis in a life. And I've seen a lot of crisis in my life. I've seen a lot of death in my life with friends and family and addictions and drugs and suicide. For Elena really to, I've said before, set me free and break my boundaries and break my chains, personally, my artistic career and my creativity just has blown up, I would say, because of her. Because I don't fear boardrooms anymore. I don't fear pitch sessions. I don't fear collaborations or projects, because what's there to fear? You know, nobody's going to die in those things. I might get really embarrassed or have a huge failure in my life, but, you know, so post-Elena, my horizons have, you know, opened up tremendously, you know. So, Jaime, how are things different for you after?
I'm more of a person who understands loss a lot more. Definitely a little bit more. I'm probably more emotional now than I was then. Not as far as, like, you know, if I see, you know, a kid's ice cream fall on the ground, I'm not in tears from it. But like if I don't know, like I cry constantly.
Jaime cried at Spider-Man.
I was gonna say that I cried in Spider-Man too. I don't no spoiler alerts, but I cried.
He did.
And so, like, you know, emotionally, I feel like that's kind of broken me down to be that sentimental kind of person. I feel like I was that before, but I feel like more so now after experiencing all that. It's definitely a little bit where, not that I'm unbalanced with what I deal with, or how I see things and envision things, or accept things that I come with, but I guess I understand the loss part a lot more than I originally had before London. Well, I can almost guarantee that. Just loss and suffering and those types of things.
So is there more of it has your empathy grown towards people in other situations, that kind of thing?
I kind of feel like it really depends on the situation. Like if it's somebody who's honestly reaching out for help and kind of like guidance and just really lost, or if it's somebody who's just dying for the attention. Like, and I feel like I'm not one to call anybody out or anything like that, but, you know, I feel like I can kind of sense when it is in between there, because I don't know, like
No, that's a fair answer. I was going to say, not to interrupt you, but I think what it is you do have the empathy there, but when you have your loss, you have a lot of defenses that go up, and you become very self-centered and on guard. So if you're putting people on check, and you're trying to make sure that their situation is genuine or whatever, that's a natural reaction because you're trying to really still protect your own situation too, because you don't want to be hurt if you go too far out there on a limb either.
Right, and I feel like there were certain times where I kind of went maybe above the line, stretching to look for kind of like more sympathy or whatever in our situation than what I probably needed, to do it. But at that point in time, you lose your son or daughter or whatever, and you're just searching for something to make you feel whole in that moment,
Yeah, you're
as
just
far
grabbing.
Yeah. So you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, that makes me feel good. Oh, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I need this. The attention comes to you instead of focusing on how you're gonna push through it. So I guess that kind of was another thing that got brought to my attention after he passed, was how much I was depending on to figure out how to make me feel better instead of trying to figure out how to process it. Or maybe that was one of my processes, to try to absorb anything I could to make me feel that void, I guess you could say.
Good answer. Sam, how are you different after post-Christian?
Well, I guess to start the answer for that question, it wasn't like here's the cliff edge. I was this person before, and then now I'm this person. It's still been a very gradual growing, and learning different things, and in the last 7 years. But I guess to answer that, I was thinking today, just this morning, about some questions that you may ask, and I was trying to, just kind of grip my thoughts, and nothing really much was coming to me. I didn't know what sort of questions you asked. Obviously, we knew it would be what sort of topic it would be about, but I was really just very blank. And then this song came on my iTunes, and it's I'll get back to your question in a second, but
take your time.
And the song was, I printed the lyrics out because I just felt it really kind of hit me at the time, and it was a song written about for the Nelson Mandela movie, and the chorus is, we can't fall any further if we can't feel ordinary love, and we can't reach any higher if we can't deal with ordinary love. And are we tough enough for ordinary love? And I guess I couldn't quite grip how that made me, how I could relate it to this topic at the time, but I feel as though since Christian passed away, I've really just focused on, I've kept things simple and just focused on, I love him, even though he's not here. It doesn't matter what I believe, what life's all about. I'm just going to love him, and I'm going to love everyone, like my family, my other children, and those who are close to me. And so that was my foundation going forward, is just love him and honor him. And I've said it before, like I'm not, I don't like run into my workplace and just be like, hey man, I love my son. Like I don't throw it in people's faces or anything, but I'm just going to love him and not be afraid to show it. And those lyrics from the song "Ordinary Love," I think that the title, my interpretation is, it's ordinary love. Love's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I think for me, it's my foundation for kind of starting again 7 years ago, is just to love, because that's, I think, it's hard to achieve more in life, and it's hard to get any lower if you can't love. And so I just love my son, and I love my children, and going forward, I just made sure that I just look for that light and love in all situations. And talking about before he was born, how it's quite an imbalanced individual, and getting pretty deep and personal here, I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, and I've had some serious issues to deal with as a child, a teenager, and a young adult with my imbalance. That is just all evening out now and spreading out, and that side of me that's just full of positivity and love, which I think has really come from Christian's short time with us, is just taking over my life. And so I'm learning to just become a man that, doesn't need any alcohol to have a good time. It's all coming from within. Like I've said 100 times already, it's just love that I feel. I just feel as though I'm starting to just become just overwhelmed with it, and using it in every situation, using it in my work, using it in my social life, and so that's how I'm changing, and that's how I'm a different person now. And
That's awesome.
I hope that was a good answer and not a bad one.
No, bad answer.
No, it's good.
You got Jaime's stamp of approval. Good answer.
Excellent.
Dude, Jaime, we got to look up some lyrics to quote next round. Round 2.
No. I was going to say something and I stopped.
So that's our before, that's our after, and to highlight some of the landmarks of the experience. And it's cool because I am 12 years out. Sam, you're 7, you said, and Jaime, you're around 2, right?
Almost 2, yeah.
Yeah, so this is really an interesting. I don't even remember what 2 years out was like. I think I still was like, I don't know. I was non-functional still, but surveying the landscape of this experience, what was, and I'll start with you, Sam, tell me what your rock bottom was, if you can identify where you were, what you were doing, maybe what your habits were. When you hit rock bottom because of this experience, what did it look like for you?
This might sound a bit strange, but someone who was already dealing with depression at the time, before all this even happened, in a way, I think it almost made it seem a bit easier to deal with. That I remember 2 weeks leading up to when we got the diagnosis, 2 weeks before Christian was born. Carly was in hysterics. Like, she had to be sedated basically with strong sleeping tablets every night, and I remember that being one of the toughest parts. So this is before even the birth of Christian, which again then took it to another level of seeing him born and holding him, and for the day after that and bathing him, which was rock bottom as well as beautiful, a beautiful experience at the time. But afterwards, I was still very numb, and I remember we had our daughter's birthday party shortly after, and so many people came to this, and I think we invited a lot of people, and it was almost just like everyone get together, because obviously we've just been through something terrible, but let's celebrate our daughter's birthdays as well. And so a lot of people came, and I just annihilated myself with alcohol. And I remember I was, I just remember, I think I've seen a photo of myself from that party, and I just had like, this overgrown beard, like fuzz on my face. I was, bags under my eyes, and I was just so drunk, and I think I was the only one who was even drinking. And so I was just a completely lost soul, this being, I think, probably about 4 weeks after Christian was born. And so going back to when I talked about the depression side of things, because depression pretty much makes you a numb individual, it almost possibly blocked me from feeling the slope after an experience like that. So I wasn't up here, and then Christian was born, and then there was a big drop off. I was kind of already down here, and then, but in saying that, I did still obviously feel all the raw emotions that come with it. But I was already in a frame of mind where I'm trying to make myself better as a human being, and trying to strengthen my soul and come out of a bad place. So I'd say, yeah, the month, 2 weeks ahead of Christian's birth with Carly, and trying to look after her and look after our child as well, and then a good month afterwards before the healing started to begin, that was when I hit rock bottom. So about a 6-week period.
Would you say that you said you were in somewhat of a state of depression before you guys had Christian? When you found out you were pregnant with Christian, were you a little uplifted, and then there was a deeper depression when you got the bad diagnosis? Did you think that Christian's birth was going to be a really positive change in your life?
Yeah, for sure. As was Scarlett's when she was born. She was born a year before Christian. And these were all big things. And having a child with us who's alive was still always going to be enough just to get me right and to make me start becoming a man and find out who I am and all the things that come with defeating depression.
Yeah.
But this was just this was more than a bump in the road. This was a giant brick wall that was just put in front of me. That was going to take me a long time to scale over. So yeah, I still remember Scarlett being our first child. The moment she was born, I can still think about that and cry with joy in a second. Just the best moment of my life, and as have all the kids' births been. Obviously, Christian's been different. So yeah, when we found out we're expecting Christian, it was unexpected, but yeah, we were overwhelmed with joy. We're really looking forward to having him around.
Cool. Jaime, where was your rock bottom?
My rock bottom wasn't immediately after he was born, and I think the reason why is because we had such a, over flooding of people with us for like a month and a half, 2 months, where somebody was either staying with me and Lisa at the apartment, or so I'm one of those people who love being around people, and that's where I get my, I guess you could say, my energy is like, put me in a group of people, I'm excited and I can deal with it and not having anxiety or anything like that. I'm totally just in that moment with those people, and I worry about those people or whatever. So I think when it came to the 3-month part, it got to the point where it was silent. My phone wasn't. Didn't have text, and people weren't calling me, and it was just like me and my wife, and we were both really lost in what we were feeling, because at that point we'd kind of been numb to it because of the fact that we've had so much response and people calling us and checking in on us and stuff like that. And it seemed like towards the end of that 3-month period, on my side of the phone, like, I didn't get any text or responses or calls or how are you doing. It seemed like Elisa got a lot more, and I guess because it's the mother, and the women probably get it more so than the men do, as far as being more intact to that kind of emotional mentality.
Yeah.
So at that point, it kind of felt like I was fending for myself, and so I guess the thing the worst part of my whole like depression fall was, I was just eating everything as far as sugar or fast food or just anything to kind of fill that void, make me feel like a high. And that does it for you when you're eating sugar and unhealthy things, because it's all that stuff that it kind of almost makes your body feel kind of like, when you overeat, you kind of feel like settled, and you just want to lay down. And that's what I wanted to do, was just lay down and not do anything.
Interesting.
So I was kind of feeding myself to do that, and then when I go to work, I'd pound 4 or 5 Red Bulls or whatever the case may be, Cokes or whatever the thing, and then just not making good decisions with our money and stuff, because I just didn't care. I just wanted to feel like something was there, something I could attach myself to was there to make me feel peace, I guess, with the situation.
Yeah.
And so I just remember one time I just broke down and just cried, and Lisa's looking at me and she's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I don't feel like living anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to respond to this." So while she's dealing with the loss of our son, I'm also dealing with the loss of my life, and so she has to take on that too, which is very selfish on my part, about the way I was handling it. But at the same time, like we were talking about earlier, I still have both sets of grandparents, both both parents, my brother, nothing in our family has like impacted me like the loss of our son. So I didn't know how to deal with it, and nor did anybody in my family. So I'm already kind of more of a carefree kind of guy. So the fact that I didn't have anybody telling me to do the right thing or kind of set me down and say, hey, you need to, find a different direction or, figure this out. Basically, I had free reign to do whatever I wanted. So I didn't get into it like Sam as far as the alcohol and drown myself in that. But when you're eating and getting obese and not worrying about your life, not taking care of yourself, that's basically like drowning into the alcohol. You're just getting a need for yourself to figure out what you want to do with your life. And at that point in time, I just wanted to lay down and sleep,
Yeah, I think as far as, coping, once we're at your rock bottom or even getting there, with coping skills and coping mechanisms, whether it's substance abuse of alcohol or food or drugs, I think you said two things. It's like you were doing, I think it's the things you're doing just to get through the day. So whether it's eating and sleeping, then it's on to the next day, and that's a victory. Or the other part, you're eating, and you don't care if you live or you survive because it's all just too overwhelming and depressing. I think I had a lot of those same thoughts. I don't think I abused anything, but I was definitely very rageful. Like I told you guys, I was very physical, and I would scream a lot in my house. And I think I've said this in other hangouts that I would just stand in our hallway of our home, which was really small, and I would just scream as loud as I could for as long as I could for hours, just so that somebody would call the police on me, because I just wanted to be heard, and I didn't care, because I would say things as well as like, well, I don't care if I die, because if I die, then I'm going to go be with my daughter, so it didn't really matter either way if I abused myself here or if I die. I really didn't care. So I think my rock bottom for me was pretty much immediately, we had Elena's birth, and we had that time, and thankfully that was very peaceful and very uplifting. But the worst moment was when me and Carrie got in the car in front of the hospital, and our car doors closed. Both car doors, ka-thunk. And it was us sitting in front of this hospital building, in our car, just the two of us, with no baby. And both of us at that moment we started wailing. Just like, I'm surprised nobody came to our car. Because that was another we don't care moment. And we were screaming, and I was hitting the steering wheel, and we were just, I don't know how I drove, And when we got home, Carrie they had to remove her from the car. And my parents, they basically I remember it's like they were just basically had her arms over shoulders and just kind of carrying her, dragging her into the home, and she just fell all over the floor. And that was the same for me. And I just remember for weeks and months just screaming and angry and just tearing things apart. And I didn't care. And like you said, Jaime, that people were with you. My mom did the same thing, as they tried to make sure there were either people with us, but if we needed space, they knew that the phone might ring. My mom told me, if you ever feel unsafe, you need to call us, because we know that might happen. And I don't know when I came out of it. I can't recall what really changed. And I know a lot of mothers talk a lot about, I don't remember 3 months. I don't remember 6 months. I don't remember 9 months after that. I don't. The funny thing is, the only thing I remember are the bad trigger days. Like every Tuesday or Wednesday at 2:30 when she was born the prior week, I would be sick at that hour of her birth for weeks following. Like every time that time would come up, like 2:30, 2:30, 2:30, I just would be like so ill. And it's just weird how mentally that stuff just kind of sticks with you. So we already talked about coping. So Sam, was alcohol pretty much your thing that you remember going through that period?
I wouldn't say it was my thing, but it came in handy when I needed it.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't really have a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like what you guys have done to pinpoint the lowest moment. I know I said mine over 6 weeks or so, but I'd probably have to say the week or two leading up to Christian's birth. I remember those nights sitting there, possibly while Carly has already taken the strong sleeping pills just to knock her out, and just feeling Christian kicking, knowing that I'm not going to feel him kicking for much longer. So just on your question before, just to pinpoint that a bit more.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't say alcohol was my thing, but I allowed it to become more than what it should have been at various stages. And even I think another one. I think the first time I went out just to do something socially after Christian was born was a music festival called the Big Day Out here in Australia. It's probably the biggest music festival we have, and some big bands playing. Tool were headlining. I used to like Tool a lot back then. And another example of when I just got annihilated. I can't even remember how I got home. And yeah, similar to you, JP. I can't remember. I can't even remember really getting home after Christian was born, and I'm struggling to remember the days and weeks after that. All I can remember are the times where I let it get the better of me. I can't remember if I was being strong for Carly and Scarlett. I just can't remember anything about our home life. And food. Food's been a big one for me as well. I've been no stranger to basically self-medicating myself through sugar and carbohydrates and really destroying my endorphins in my stomach. And for someone, let me tell you, for someone with ADHD, physically, the chemical effect of bad eating is just basically you turn into a zombie and you can't really achieve much at all. So yeah, I've been guilty of that as well, and that's taken years for me to change. I haven't chosen to go down the prescription medication path. That's just me personally. There's nothing wrong with that if people decide to do that. But I've chosen a natural way to get out of my depression and my chemical imbalance. And fortunate enough, I've been educated on that side of things. Being a personal trainer, I've learned the value of not getting too much of a high carb intake and looking after your stomach and getting the hormones and endorphins that you need really producing well. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I did let alcohol get the better of me at many stages after Christian's death, and I'm talking for a few years as well, not just for a few months afterwards. And eventually, I just went back to being just a social drinker. And then in the last couple of years, I went to just drinking a few drinks maybe every month or two. And just recently, not really so much of a conscious decision to say I'm never drinking again, but I haven't had a drink for about 4 months, not even a drop of alcohol, and I'm really enjoying that. So I'm not consciously saying I'm never going to drink again. I'm just going to wake up every day and continue not to drink if it makes me feel good.
Well, that's good. That's a big testament, and I know all three of us have so much to live for, so much to be healthy for, and it's hard to move in a positive direction, but you just got to keep moving. That's the key. You just keep progressing forward. And talking about our relationships, the three of us here are all married men. I know some of the guys out there that are watching, some of the couples out there may not necessarily be married. And I know this is a whole nother hangout where we're going to talk a little bit about our relationships following the passing of our kids. And Jaime, how many years have you guys been married?
3 was it in April.
Wow! So you were married not for a long time, and then you guys, wow! So that's a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah,
all at the same time.
we dealt with that, and then my wife also has Lyme disease as well, and she had a really bad relapse right after our honeymoon. So, I mean, as far as life and being put in the ringer and trying to figure out how to survive, I feel like we've been competing, and trying
Yeah.
to be that kind of couple that looks at glass half full type situations. Like, we're together, we have each other. I'm here for you, you're here for me, type scenario. But yeah, it was a struggle when I was going through that whole depression stage, as far as figuring out um, who I was as a man. I was acting like a kid. Trying to figure out voids to fill and where to go with it. And I'm can almost guarantee that it wasn't easy with Elisa trying to figure out how to
Who
deal with
you
the loss of
were.
her son. Yeah, who I was, and I'm not anywhere near the guy that I was when we got married or anything like that. Didn't care, just didn't want to, be alive, and didn't want to. It almost feels like you force yourself to believe that nobody else cares as well. Like when you're in that
Mhm. Well,
that depressive state, you're like, nobody cares about me, or nobody, obviously. And you find with me, I'm such a, I'm a Christian, so I always pull the struggle with like good and evil type thing. Like I always find it, I always feel like in my case that Satan always tries to find a way to make the little things the big things. So with people not calling me or texting me or something like that, I always felt like it was like,
mm,
what would it matter? Nobody's there, nobody listens. So you listen to those kind of like um, voices in your head where it's just not gonna help you get through that, because all you're doing is talking yourself down.
yeah. With your relationship with Lisa, do you think that you guys grew closer or farther apart?
We definitely at the beginning grew further apart whenever I hit the depressive stage, but now with everything that we've gone through, I think we're so much closer now than we were, when we first got married, or after we had London and I went through the depressive stage. So I'd say it was a transition. Like I definitely feel like we were definitely far apart because she didn't know who I was and I didn't know what I was doing alive. And and now that I've kind of uh, I want to say fighting for what I know is right,
Mhm.
and who I am as a person, and who that I am a dad, even though I do not have my son here with us. That I think that was the biggest pull because I get, I guess I'm at that age where I get asked to work all the time where people are like, oh, so do y'all have any kids? And, when you first lose your child, you don't know how to answer that. Well, yeah, we have a child, but he passed.
Yeah.
And now I'm just kind of like, yeah, we have a kid. He's 1 or 1.5 or whatever age he would have been, here living or whatever. So I just go with it, and I feel fine about it because I love our son, and I don't feel like I should. It's a hard transition, and you got to find that thing. But the relationship, I think, has blossomed because of the fact that I've learned how to be a father to London, even when he's not here.
So that's made your relationship stronger.
Yeah. Well, in our case, because myself, I feel more comfortable with what kind of a father I am, versus I lost my son and not thinking I was a father at all.
Mm. Okay. Good, good. Sam, what was, tell me what the biggest obstacle has been in your guys' marriage to keep things strong and keep things together after suffering such a tragic loss?
The biggest obstacle in our marriage has been the experience of parenthood to not just to Christian, but the kids as well. But in particular, with the experience with Christian, is Carly becoming a woman and an inspired woman, and you've seen what she's done with her inspiration and her work. and so she's really become so self-educated and so creative, and just out of pure love from her heart that all this has come from. And the struggle has come from me coming to the party as well. So with it got to a stage where I couldn't work full time, and Carly could keep giving out this free service. It started off as a free service, and we wanted to keep going that way and see where it led to. It led to us just being driven into the ground financially and physically as well.
Yeah.
So we had to ask for donations for the images and etc. And so it's gotten to such a stage now where it was either I leave work and support Carly, and we continue to let this legacy grow and evolve, or she just keeps it leveled off, and she keeps a hold on the work while I continue to work full time, and we only take a certain amount of intakes and that sort of thing. So I chose to leave my work and support her, because I want to be involved with her work and Christian's legacy as well. So that was a good decision that I made, but where I struggled was for probably a good year or two after that to actually pull my finger out and do what I was meant to do at home and support her. It got to a stage where she was still basically a full-time mum, working full-time, looking after the house, and I was still struggling with what I didn't realize at the time, but I was still struggling with depression and drinking, and so I was failing in that side of the bargain. And sure, I mean, it wasn't like I was useless that whole time. Like I did pull my finger out, do a few good things here and there, and she wasn't perfect either. But I can tell you a little insight is that our marriage was just hanging on by a thread. Okay, so I'm getting a bit personal here, but I think most marriages have been through something similar, no matter what the situation. Yeah. And fortunately, we were able to just get through that part, and I made certain changes with my approach and my outlook, all part of my natural development, and we've compromised a bit more, and we've come out of it. We're continuing to take steps to come out of it, but we're much stronger for going through that. So to answer your question, in a nutshell, that's been the biggest hurdle, is her moving on as a woman and with love, and me failing to keep pace at the start. So it really did have us in two different places. Yeah.
No, that's some good insight, because I know there's a lot of guys, especially within this community, and I remember Carrie being so voracious and looking for her healing and trying to find the answer to the question of what the whole purpose was to everything. So whether it's through the internet or resources, and they're just going for it. You know, they might not even be holding your hand. They're running ahead of you, trying to reach out for that success story that they want to find what the answer was to the situation, to their experience. And they're just going for it, and you might not be able to, like you said, keep up. You know, and I think there's a lot of people that can identify with that. I think there's a lot of people that have not been able to stay in lock sync with their partner, and sometimes there has to be a separate ways of going. Sometimes that's sometimes the reality. I think the reality, I think the reality is sometimes you come out of this experience as two different people. So maybe these people got married in the beginning, and maybe for some reason other people show up on the other side of the birth story, and you have to figure out if you're going to fall in love with that person again, or if it's going to have to be a separating of ways. And of course that's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of the situation.
It's not that obviously it's not necessarily divorce isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know, or uncoupling, I hear it being called these days. I mean, obviously I don't want to get divorced, But it's not to say that you're a bad person if you do get divorced for whatever reason. But I also have a sneaking feeling that possibly, and we're still very young in our marriage, and we're 32 years old, so we've got who knows what's ahead. But it could be the case that Christian, in a way, has saved our marriage as well. For all I know, we could have learned more about each other 5 years ago without Christian's experience, and we could have divorced a few years ago, for all I know. So, who's to say? Who's to say? Hypothetical. I know.
No, I will. I have to speak to a certain segment of the community out there too, as far as, you know, both of you guys are putting your hearts out there, and what's different in our experiences is that you guys had both bad preterm diagnoses with the babies, and what's interesting with ours is that it was kind of a flashbang situation. We didn't know what was going on because what seems to be the prevailing thing with our situation is, Carrie loves this term, incompetent cervix. There's a big part of the community that's IC, incompetent cervix, so it has to do with the pregnancy, which is a lot for the mother in the situation to deal with, because the medical data is that it's her body. It's not necessarily, you know, something that happened with the baby. It's not a genetic situation or a bad preterm diagnosis. So in our relationship, a huge obstacle has been, and subsequently with trying to have Isaiah, we could not have physical intimacy without thinking about death. You know, it was, if we're going to have a physical relationship, we might be putting a baby in jeopardy because the recurring situation is incompetent cervix. And that happened with our subsequent pregnancy with Isaiah, and the exact same situation happened with Isaiah's pregnancy as happened with Elena's pregnancy. And when we got that report for the perinatologist the second time around, I gave my son up to die, basically. When they said it's happening again, it's the exact same week in gestation as the first pregnancy when you lost Elena. We're going to try to take these precautions now, but this is what could happen. And I started my grieving process immediately. And I did not claim him as going to be a success story. I gave him up for dead, and I started to grieve him because it was easier for me to grieve that situation than to fight like I did the first time. So, you know, having to do with a marriage and physical intimacy issues, there was no time. Like you said, Sam, you were saying that you all will always have Scarlett's birth, labor, and delivery as this shining light moment of your life, and I never had that because the first time I lost Elena, it was in a split second. Basically, it was in 24 hours. And when we got pregnant with Isaiah, every minute of that pregnancy was a gripping fear moment. And then he almost came at 21 weeks, and we had a cerclage put in, and Carrie went on 3 months complete bed rest. And then Isaiah was born 8 weeks early. So the day that he was born, I still thought that he might die. And when he was born, when I didn't hear him cry, I was... Yeah. I don't even know the things that were gripping my body at that point, because I remember being in the in labor and delivery when they realized how quickly Isaiah was coming, and it was literally like an ER moment, like television. The nurses started screaming, they're jumping on the bed, they kicked the wheels on the bed, and they're like, "We need to go now, we need to go now," and they're pushing her, and I just grabbed my mother-in-law, and that was the moment that I knew he was going to die. But he didn't. You know, within an hour he was born, and he cried, and we rushed to the NICU, and he was in the NICU for a month. But there was still that moment. His birth was me knowing he was going to die. That was my So, God bless you, Sam, for having that shining moment. But it's funny, from here on out with me and Carrie, we know that we can't ever get pregnant again. And we know that if we did, that the precautions in the pregnancy would be so high risk, um, everything else in my world will stop.
Yeah.
So, in regards to our marriage, in regards to our relationship, not to be so open and so forthright. And so, I mean, I'm being as open as I can be. It's just not connected there because there's a fear of death. So something that's so beautiful and also so integral to a marriage and to a relationship, I'd say that that's a huge obstacle for us. And you know, we, we just, we're faith-believing people too, and we pray and we struggle, and we're just the best friends that we can absolutely be. And, none of us know what tomorrow holds, but we just do our best, and we all have obstacles, and you just talk through it best you can, and here we are. And I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer for people going through the same thing as I am. I don't have an answer for people going through the same thing similar to you guys. You, Jaime, 2 years in, and I remember 2 years of marriage and 7 years of marriage as well. It's like yesterday, but this will be our. I think we've been together for 20 years. I was married in 2000, so this will be our 14th anniversary. So, always challenges, and I know that that's a whole hangout with intimacy, friendship, relationship after. And it's always tragic when I hear people that are breaking up, but I can't judge, and I understand, because our marriages are, and relationships, even if you're not married, it's always a struggle if you don't have a baby die, and then pile that on top of laundry and washing the dishes, and we have to be darn near superhuman. But let's close.
What we're confronted with, I guess. I mean, obviously, I don't have an answer for that either. I guess, or the only thing that comes to mind, is I guess we're just lucky to be going through that with our best friends and soulmates. I guess doing it together. When we found out of we're not comparing this situation to that situation, but one of the best things I've ever done for Carly is just write one line on a card, and that was when we found out about Christian. That was that we were going through this together, and I wrote that one line, gave it to her, and that's one of the best things I've ever done. So I guess we're very lucky to be going through these extremely hard situations together, and what you're going through with Carrie, JP. I know you guys, at least you have each other to go through it with.
Yeah. No, it does come down to that, and like I said, you just go one day at a time, and I know the three of us, we're blessed to have three really amazing partners in life. And what would be, in closing, it being Father's Day week, even though this was not a Father's Day hangout, Sam, what would be your message to the dads out there, married or single, whoever they are, dads that are hurting and looking for what tomorrow holds for them? What's your message for them?
That's a tough one. I guess the only thing I can say is, off the top of my head, we're designed to feel the dark emotions that we're feeling, and I guess from a father who's gone through the death of a child, almost to I guess embrace the darkness that comes, because we're meant to feel it, and we're feeling it because we care. and I don't, in my message, I don't have any answers for those emotions. You know, it's hard just to pat everyone on the back and say, there, it's going to be all right, because you know, who knows? Yeah, I don't have an answer. All I can say is just, if you wait long enough and if you work at it long enough, beauty will come back into the world again. Just try and harness whatever love you have in your heart, and then just try and let it grow. And I mean, we all go through these really hard situations. Some are really hard. You know, some are horrific. I mean, they're all horrific, really. But yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to mumble out here, to be honest, JP. It's you know, I don't have the answers. Just just hold on to love. That's it. I'll leave it at that.
That's perfect. You're perfect. And you quoted the U2 lyrics earlier, so you're golden. You're good. So Jaime, you have to top that.
Is there like a poem I can read or something? I don't know. Sam's so much better than I am. I guess
I have to read things because it doesn't come to my head like it does for you.
It's all jumbled up somewhere. I guess the main thing that if I could, I mean, if I have moments or something like that I can kind of redo and jump into, I guess, during the pregnancy and after, would just be, I wish I would have came to terms with who I was looking at in the mirror sooner, and figuring out that there are other people who have gone through it, and you're not alone, and that I guess I wish I would have done more searching to figure out how to handle it better, to be a better husband, and not more so because I feel like what I did, I do feel like what I did was wrong in aspects of it, but I do feel like what came out of it was a guy who struggled and figured out that you can grab your life back. I'm not saying I have everything 155% together now, but I will say that I'm going forward, and that, you know, I look at things and I see goodness in it, and I see, you know, the bright aspects of life, and not that, you know, everything dies and everything's going away and everything's getting taken away from me, and, you know, what about me, and why is my kid not here with me, and, you know, the birthday parties and all those things that wrapped me into the downfall, but just that, you know, you have to care on some aspect to live life, to know that life is worth it. And I think that's where I went wrong. It's just not knowing that part, and not knowing that I'm still a father regardless if he's here with us, you know, on earth or in heaven. And I think that's the big disconnect, is I didn't really know how to, you know, because you see on Facebook or on Instagram, you see pictures of people holding their kids and, you know, happy 3 months, happy 4 months. That's not you. You're the father who can't dress him up in the clothes and, you know, put him in, you know, his favorite soccer jersey, or, you know, whatever the case may be. That's not you. But you still have a life to live with your wife, and you still have to figure out that the things that you do, it's so cheesy, but it's so true too. Like, the things that you do, he is there with you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the one thing. I think if any fathers are going to see this, like, believe that, like, he's still there with you. Like, as dumb as it sounds, and as bad as hurt as you're going to be, and as low as you're going to feel, like, he is still there with you. Like, I guess that's why I wish I kind of would have figured out sooner. But that's kind of my thing, is that he is always there with me, and that I'm not going to lose that aspect. I'm always going to have him as my son, and I'm never going to lose lose that attachment because he's not here with us. Like, that's the one thing that daily I know now, that's kind of like my light to it. Like, anything I do, I can do with him and think of him in that moment, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, you have a really important message for a lot of guys out there, Jaime, because, you know, like you said, it's like you don't have, you know, Sam and I are blessed to have, I have one kid here with me who I can hug and love and, like you said, put a soccer jersey on. And Sam has his 3 daughters, but, you know, Jaime, you don't have a physical presence of a kid. So that's a really important message of helping all of those families out there, both men and women, that haven't been able to either conceive and have a kid yet, or, you know, for the ones that won't ever have that opportunity. And I know that, you know, bringing it back to healing conversations, I know that's one of the big issues that they'll be covering in the future, is those families, those couples that don't have a physical child with them, you know, and we acknowledge you all, and our love goes out to you, moms and dads, and, you know, just because this is a men's hangout, especially the dads out there, I guess my message is, you know, if you can't find those doors of positivity to walk through yet, they're out there. There are doors of positivity to walk through, as Sam and Jaime both pointed out. You know, find the windows to look through, because there are a ton of windows of options of positivity for you to just peer out of. You don't have to walk through the door yet. Just look for those windows. And maybe Jaime and Sam and myself and Sean Hanish at Return to Zero, and Carly and all the people that are working so hard to get the message out there, to break the silence, to say it out loud, to let you know that you're not alone. We're just windows. You might not walk through our door yet. We've walked through doors. I feel like I've walked through my share of doors, and I'm at a really great place. And, you know, walking through some of those doors has been meeting Jaime and Sam. And but those doors weren't there for me 2 years ago. It was just windows. It was what ifs. It was possibilities. It was maybes. Does somebody like this exist? Has somebody gone through this? So that's what you guys are, Jaime and Sam. And so everybody, you know, just look for those windows of opportunity, of positivity, and the doors are usually right next to those windows. You just turn the knob and walk through, and, you know, hopefully you will find yourself in a place that is makes you whole and healthy, and you find joy there. And that's what we're here to point the way to. And so with that, thank you to my brothers. Jaime, thank you. I love you.
Love you too, man.
I'm sorry that you cried at Spider-Man. It's unfortunate.
I'm sure it wasn't that bad.
It was horrible. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, this cannot be happening to me in Spider-Man. I didn't watch X-Men, though, and I didn't cry during X-Men, so I feel like I redeemed myself on some kind of level, maybe. So.
I'll go see X-Men tomorrow, and I'll see if I cry. Sam, thank you. Love to the family and the girls back in Perth. We love you guys.
Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity, JP.
Absolutely. We'll do it again very soon, and we will have more men's hangouts soon, we promise. I had some great conversations this week with quite a few guys. They just weren't able to join us tonight because of timing, but we did our best. We came, we conquered, and I'll leave it at that. But thanks one more time, fellas, and love to your families, and to everyone out there, thanks for joining us. We have a few more Healing Conversations things coming up, and just look for details on all the Facebook pages for that. But until the next time, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you all continue to be well, and good night for now.